At a very young age, she started posting her luxurious lifestyle online. She began to accumulate so many followers on her socials, either due to her money or her personality, or both. Gucci, Valentino, Chanel, them brands were her to-go-to brands when it came to fashion. Her online presence started to grow even faster once she started receiving invites to exclusive parties, and her career as an influencer skyrocketed. She also got a chance to meet several celebrities and became one of the most sought-after influencers in the industry. She was young, pretty, and so kind. So with all this, the picture-perfect life, how did her head end up in a pot full of soup? Well, let's dive in. Today we are covering the story of Abby Choi, a Hong Kong model and socialite. Now, this kind of case is said to be one of the most shocking cases to happen in Hong Kong since 2013, probably because it's one of the safest cities in the world. Born on July the 11th, 1994 into a very wealthy family, Abby was the eldest of 3 daughters. Her father owned several construction businesses throughout Hong Kong and China, and her mother owns many properties and multi-million-dollar assets. With hundreds of thousands of followers and more than 100 million Hong Kong dollars in the bank, it's evident to say that she was living the life. She was also a co-founder of a charitable organization that helps stray animals. She was featured in international publications like Vogue, Elle, Harper's Bazaar, and even attended Paris Fashion Week. Less than 2 weeks before her death, she was featured on the cover of Elle Officielle Monaco. She had great friends and a family that loved her so much, and because of her kind heart, very many people adored her. So at the age of 18, she fell in love and married a man named Alex Kwong, who was also 18 at the time, and together they had 2 kids, a son and a daughter. However, after 3 years, their marriage came to an end and they divorced. In 2016, she found a new love, Chris Tam. He was a wealthy businessman living in Hong Kong and came from a family with a fortune. His father owned a chain of restaurants around Hong Kong. They held a wedding ceremony, though the marriage was not legally registered, and had 2 children together. So far we know that she was 28 years old and had 4 children at the time of her death. The story is, after the breakup with Alex, she bought a luxurious 4-bedroom apartment for her ex-in-laws in Hong Kong in one of the most expensive suburbs called the Kodori Hills. She purchased it in Alex's father's name, Mr. Kwong, for 67 million Hong Kong dollars, or approximately $8.5 US million. She put it under his name to avoid paying stamp duties or taxes. Apparently, Mr. Kwong persuaded her to buy the apartment for them because they were broke, which she did because she was naive. She also looked after Alex's brother, Anthony, by hiring him as her chauffeur while she was still married to Alex and even after the divorce. They had formed a bond whereby he would even refer to her as sis or sister in some of the pictures on the gram, and she even helped him purchase a house. They also ran a pancake stall together at some point. I mean, this girl was beyond generous. As if that was not more than enough, she would buy them expensive gifts, they would spend weekends together, had regular meetups, and went on expensive trips together. And by together, I mean her 4 children, her current in-laws, and her ex-in-laws. Like they became this one big family because Abby wanted to remain close to her ex-in-laws. I mean, let me just pause here and say this, it's fine, in fact, it's great, amazing to have a kind heart. But you gotta draw the line when it comes to some people, like, be kind but don't be used. I'm thinking that Abby finally realized that her ex-in-laws were taking advantage of her kind heart, and she was like, enough is enough. And this is where the plot thickens. So remember the luxurious apartment that I mentioned earlier? Well, Abby decided that she wanted to sell it. The reason is not really known, but it's speculated that she wanted the money for some investment. In January 2023, she spoke to her ex-in-laws who were living in the apartment and told them that she needed her apartment back because she wanted to sell it. But they did not take it well. She even received death threats, allegedly, from her father-in-law, who said that she would kill her if she were to go ahead with the plan of selling the apartment without finding them another place to go. They were not ready to let go of the lifestyle they were used to. They got comfortable on someone else's expense, which was not right. She then decided to seek legal counsel and was told that if she had proof of ownership, she could sell the property, and well, she did have the proof because she's the one who bought it. Whether she took the threats seriously or not, we can't tell. But a friend of Abby came forward and said that she was actually looking for an apartment at a different location to buy for them. However, before her plans could even go further, she disappeared. On February 21st, 2023, she was supposed to pick her daughter from school but never made it there. Phone calls and text messages were not answered, and it raised concern to her daughter's teachers and friends. This is because she was a loving and responsible mom who wouldn't just abandon her child, and she always had her phone on hand, never missed any notifications, never missed any calls or messages. So this was actually strange. 2 hours later, she was reported as missing, and the authorities went to work. Hundreds of officers were assigned to find her, including Hong Kong's elite task force, the Flying Tigers. Of course, the first people to be interviewed by the authorities were her family and friends. Alex and Anthony and the whole Kwong family was interviewed, but their inconsistent stories, coupled with the car GPS records, surveillance footage from local houses, and talks with the neighborhood people, led police to an apartment in Tai Po that had been rented a few weeks before Abby's disappearance. Now, the apartment had actually been rented by Mr. Kwong Kau, Alex's father. They hoped that they would at least find her alive and treat the incident as a kidnap case, but what they found inside was a haunting scene. The walls were covered with plastic. There was an electric saw, a meat grinder, a hammer, face shields, raincoats. The setup was that of a butcher shop. This might have raised eyebrows, but what shocked the detectives was a purple handbag that was in the bedroom. They quickly identified the handbag to be that of Abby Choi from the surveillance footage that was taken a few hours before her disappearance. The apartment became a crime scene and the investigation continued. Now here is where the story darkens. Human legs were found inside a fridge that was in the kitchen area. They also found 2 large soup pots on the stove that had carrots, minced meat, celery, radishes, and inside the stew was a human skull and several rib bones. DNA confirmed that it was Abby's. I'm just here like, a soup? Was it to conceal their fingerprints? Was it like a broth? Like, were they planning on eating her? Like, why boil her skull and ribs and probably a few other body parts with carrots and minced meat? Were they planning on cooking her legs too? Well, it's beyond me. Anyway, moving on. A deep hole was discovered at the back of her skull, and the forensic experts believed that it was the result of a fatal blow that killed her, since blood was also found in the 7-seater that was used to transport her. But we ain't sure whether the blow actually killed her or just left her unconscious. But let's just say that it was the blow that killed her, cause if they did what they did to her while she was still alive or unconscious, then I don't know how much evil they could have been. The nearby area was searched thoroughly, but unfortunately no more body parts were found. Her torso and hands are still missing. This is what we know so far. Anthony Kwong drove to her house and picked her up, but instead of driving her to her kids' school, he had other plans, or should I say, the Kwong family had other plans for her. While under a tunnel they were driving through, Anthony stopped the car at the side of the road and Alex got in. It's not clear what happened next, but Abby never arrived to pick her daughter from school. It's speculated that this is where she was hit by a hammer at the back of her head, and that might have either killed her or rendered her unconscious. She was then driven to the apartment and her body was dismembered. Remember what I said about drawing the line when it came to some people? Well, let's now talk about the Kwong family. Let's start with Kwong Kau, Alex's father and Abby's ex-father-in-law. He was a respected chief of police in the Hong Kong Police Department and had a good reputation and was actually good at his job. However, it all fell apart in 2005 when he was accused of sexually assaulting a woman. He decided to resign instead of fighting the allegations to avoid embarrassment. He actually had a mistress 6 months prior to the incident and had even rented a house for her where they would meet. He's also the one who rented the apartment where Abby was murdered and is said to be the mastermind of the murder. He currently faces murder charges. Now let's talk about Alex Kwong, Abby's ex-husband. In 2015, he was involved in a gold investment scam. He robbed 4 businessmen their life savings that amounted to like 5 million Hong Kong dollars. These men actually even borrowed more money on top of their life savings and gave it to him because they believed their money would double, but instead he ran away with their money. He had also stolen other people's stuff, including 39 necklaces, 13 gold bars, 102 gold grains, 6 pendants. The list is long. He also faces murder charges. Let's go to Anthony Kwong. Anthony Kwong was Abby's ex-brother-in-law and her trusted chauffeur. He had high amounts of debts, and even though Abby helped him 2-3 times, his ridiculous spendings made him fall more into debt. He wanted to live the high lifestyle which he knew he couldn't afford, and in 2019, he was sued by a local bank. He also now faces murder charges. Let's talk about Jen Lee, wife to Kwong Kau and Abby's ex-mother-in-law. She had financial issues and was declared bankrupt by the court. Not much is known about her with regards to the case, but she was charged with obstruction of justice. I mean, bankruptcy happens, no biggie, but if you follow, then you can see a pattern here. Everyone in this family just had issues. Money issues, shady issues, I mean lots and lots of issues. All the clues now pointed to the Kwong family as suspects, and so later that evening they were all arrested except for Alex. He was actually hiding. There was a citywide manhunt for him, and a few people offered to give money, like very large sums, to whoever had information of his whereabouts, and the next day he was apprehended. He was attempting to flee the country on a speedboat. Now talk of James Bond. He had over 500,000 Hong Kong dollars on him and 4 million Hong Kong dollars worth of jewelry. The 4 suspects who were officially charged in court were denied bail and would be held on remand pending investigations. So far, 3 more people have also been arrested, including Lim and Miss Poon, who helped Alex with his escape plan by securing the speedboat for him, and Kwan's mistress was also arrested for hiding Alex in the rental apartment. However, they made bail as further investigation is being carried out. Since there is no death penalty in Hong Kong, they will face life imprisonment if found guilty, which, I mean. On May 8th, a pre-trial conference was held where 6 of the 7 suspects appeared in court. The prosecution revealed that bloodstains matching to the DNA of Abby were found inside the car of Anthony Kwong, and over 30 exhibits seized by the police, including knives, chainsaws, and hammers, would be sent for DNA processing. None of them was required to enter a plea at this time, and the next pre-trial hearing will be on July 31st. Now, Abby's parents and husband are still in shock and pain after her death. Her current husband said he will continue to take care of all her children and that he is grateful for her presence in his life. Well, the thing is, the Kwong family actually resented Abby. She was very successful and on her way to stardom, and they were just a family full of issues. They wanted more and more from her. I mean, she was not obligated to help them, but they saw it as their right. And when she finally decided to set boundaries, they decided to end her life. They're just so evil, guys. I mean, for how long were they gonna depend on her? Forever? It's just so messed up. Also, remember when I said that she was not legally married to Chris? It meant that they were independent of each other's finances, and if she were to die, her assets would be inherited by her 2 children with Alex. Now, could that have been part of the plan, considering they were broke? And here's the thing, guys. Maybe I don't get it because I'm not married, but personally, I think if I were in her position, I would want to keep a distance from my ex-in-laws, especially those kinds of ex-in-laws. I would run so fast. The kids might interact with them occasionally, but other than that, I'm so moving on. Minimum communication. The culprits are being described as a parasite family, like the real-life version of the movie Parasite, where a poor family schemes their way into a wealthy family home one by one. Now, I haven't watched the movie, but from the trailer that I saw, I kinda agree. Thanks for watching and see you in my next one.